At his lowest point, the heavyweight boxer Butterbean weighed over 500 pounds. He was immobilized, spending his days deciding which family member should receive his personal heirlooms because he didn't expect to survive another year. Mick Foley reached a similar dead end. Decades of taking violent falls on steel and concrete had shattered his body, and years of impact. This measurement reveals the physiological cost of those years. Foley's spine had compressed so deeply that he had lost 1 3/4 inches of his total height. These extremes happen outside the ring as well. Ryan Nichols hit 364 pounds, realizing his health was a countdown clock that might stop before his kids reached school age. A man named Bryan sat at his desk, breaking down while reviewing his life insurance policies to see how his death might provide for the family his life was failing. When the physical body collapses and pain becomes a permanent state, the mind follows. The loss of physical agency creates a psychological lock, trapping the individual in total despair. When a body reaches this level of decay, society typically views the damage as permanent. These individuals are often categorized as lost causes. This creates a psychological cage. Physical immobility slowly suffocates mental plasticity until the brain loses the capacity to even imagine a different version of the future. This is the 10%, the injuries, the accidents, and the medical diagnoses that happen to us. These are the external realities that strip away our ability to move. This creates the central hurdle. How does someone find the internal will to repair their body when they've lost the belief that change is possible? A mind paralyzed by despair cannot heal a broken body in a vacuum. It needs an external force to disrupt the cycle of isolation. Diamond Dallas Page created that force through the accountability crib, a physical environment built to restart recovery for those who have given up. The intervention is persistent. Dallas pursued Butterbean for 5 years, refusing to accept the fighter's resignation until Butterbean finally agreed to enter the house. The crib functions as a recovery hub for legends at their breaking point. Icons like Jake the Snake Roberts, whose legacy was erased by physical and mental decline, used this space as a final sanctuary. This environment saved Scotty Riggs when he was living in his car and contemplating suicide. It provided a structure where the only goal was surviving the next 24 hours. This node visualization shows the psychological core of the crib. When a person's internal belief dies, the collective external belief of the community provides the energy. It serves as a mental life support system. Total isolation fuels the decay. Radical, community-driven accountability is the true catalyst that restarts the engine of the mind. Once the mind restarts, the physical work begins. But a broken body requires a different approach. The movements must be modified to meet the individual's current limitations. Lex Luger was once a symbol of peak physical power. After a spinal injury left him paralyzed in a wheelchair, that identity was completely stripped away. During his recovery, Luger planned to walk to a podium for a Hall of Fame speech. When his legs failed him that night, the team pivoted. They moved to Plan B, using a specialized standing device that allowed him to rise from his chair and find his feet. This rule of modification applies to everyone. Mick Foley regained his fitness by performing yoga routines while lying in bed or sitting in a chair, proving that any movement can be adapted. This illustrates the 90% rule. If life is 10% what happens to you, your recovery is defined by the 90% of how you react to those facts. Modifying a movement, finding a way to bend when you thought you were rigid, transitions the individual from a victim into an active owner of their recovery. The results of this shift are visible in the data. Mick Foley dropped 70 pounds and eliminated his chronic pain. His spine decompressed so effectively that he actually regained the 1 3/4 inches of height he had lost. Butterbean avoided his expected death, lost significant weight, and regained his mobility. He moved from preparing for a funeral to training for a final professional fight. Ryan Nichols lost 183 pounds over 3 years. He transitioned from fearing he would miss his children's childhood to actively coaching their Little League games. A man named Vance applied these principles remotely, dropping over 100 pounds in exactly 365 days by following the system from his own home. The methodology remains constant. It produces the same results for world-famous heavyweights as it does for everyday people. Most fitness routines focus on building strength through weights or burning fat through cardio. But ignoring the cultivation of flexibility leaves the body brittle. Without the ability to bend, the skeletal system remains locked in the compression of past injuries. When we look at Foley regaining his height and Butterbean regaining his stride, we see that flexibility is the true metric of youth. Physical flexibility creates the template for mental resilience. By teaching a rigid body to adapt to modified movements, the brain practices the cognitive shift required to trade a story of "I'm stuck" for a habit of "I'll pivot." Rock bottom marks the point where the old story ends. Real strength is the mental agility to begin the next chapter when the rest of the world has already closed the book.